The square smelled like wet stone and fear. 10,000 people stood in silence, waiting for a name, waiting for death dressed as tradition. Every 10 years, the same ritual, a silver bowl, folded slips of parchment, a girl's name called out like a prayer to gods who never listened. And every girl chosen, never seen again. They called it the Raven Call, they called it divine. But there are no gods in a rigged ceremony, no mercy in a system designed to kill daughters and break fathers, just power and the men who wield it. On the balcony above the crowd, a young king stood watching. 28 years old, 3 years on a throne built from bones and lies, his thumb rubbed against his index finger, a nervous habit. A tell because today, the name in that bowl belonged to someone he knew, someone whose sister had once saved his son's life. And for the first time in 150 years, a king was about to say no, even if it cost him everything. The square smelled like wet stone and fear. William Harris stood on the balcony above 10,000 heads, all of them waiting, all of them pretending they didn't know what came next. The Raven Call happened every 10 years, like clockwork, like taxes, like death. He'd watched his father preside over 2 of them. The old king had stood exactly where William stood now. Same balcony, same script, same lie, dressed up as tradition, his thumb rubbed against his index finger, back and forth. A nervous habit. Catherine used to tease him about. Catherine, 3 years dead, and he still thought her name first thing every morning. The seer stepped forward. Margaret Wilson. 70 years old and blind as a post, but somehow she always saw exactly what the council wanted her to see. She carried a silver bowl. Inside it, folded slips of parchment. Each one bore a name. Each name belonged to an unmarried woman between 17 and 23. The kingdom called it divine selection. William called it what it was, murder with paperwork. Margaret's white eyes lifted toward the sky. Her voice carried across the square without effort. Decades of practice, the gods have spoken. The raven calls. The bride is chosen. William's jaw clenched. She reached into the bowl. Her fingers, gnarled and spotted with age, closed around a slip. She unfolded it with the careful slowness of ceremony. Amanda Mitchell, 18 years. Ashwood Village. The crowd exhaled, relief and guilt in equal measure. Thank God it's not my daughter. William knew that thought. He'd seen it on 1,000 faces, heard it in whispered prayers after the last ceremony, after the one before that. He looked down at the square. Somewhere in that mass of bodies, a girl had just heard her name. Amanda Mitchell, 18 years old. He wondered if she was crying, if her mother was holding her, if she'd try to run. They always ran. Guards moved through the crowd, black uniforms, silver ravens stitched over their hearts. They knew their job: confine the girl, bring her to the palace. Don't let her make a scene. William turned away from the balcony. His office waited, paperwork waited, a kingdom that ran on routines and rituals and the blood of daughters. He sat at his desk and opened the ceremony ledger. Amanda Mitchell, 18. Ashwood Village. The ledger listed her family. Father deceased, mother deceased. Legal guardian, Sarah Mitchell. Sarah Mitchell. The name punched through his chest like a fist. He knew that name. His hands moved before his brain caught up, opening the bottom drawer, pulling out the locked box he kept there. The one Christopher Lewis had asked about once, and William had told him to mind his own damn business. Inside the box, a blood-stained handkerchief, a ring, a lock of hair, and Catherine's journal. He flipped to the entry dated 3 years and 2 months ago. The night Joshua was born, the night Catherine died. Met the night nurse today, Sarah Mitchell. 20 years old, and she's already seen more death than most see in a lifetime. She told me about her sister Amanda while we waited for the midwife. Same age as the last bride. I pray the seer never calls that name. William's vision blurred. Catherine had known. Of course she'd known. Catherine noticed everything. The way sunlight hit the garden at noon. The way Joshua smiled in his kiss. The way this whole cursed system ground people into dust. She'd known about Amanda Mitchell 3 years ago, and now Amanda's name sat in the ledger in front of him. A knock at the door, he closed the journal, locked the box, shoved it back in the drawer. Comyn Christopher Lewis entered, 32 years old and already going grey at the temples, Prime Minister. Best friend since they were boys, throwing rocks at the palace guards. Christopher's face said it all. You saw the name. William nodded. Christopher sat in the chair across from him. No ceremony, no formality, just exhaustion. Do you remember her? Sarah Mitchell? I remember. Christopher leaned back. She's already at the gates, demanding to see you. Of course she was. William stood. His knees cracked. 28 years old, and his body already felt like it belonged to someone older. Done she know I know? Christopher shrugged. Does it matter? No, it didn't. Nothing mattered except the fact that in 3 weeks, Amanda Mitchell would stand in the ceremonial hall and die, unless what? William didn't have an answer. Sir and Christopher hesitated. The council won't like it. The council can go to hell. Christopher almost smiled. I'll tell them you said that. He left. William waited. The door opened again. Sarah Mitchell walked in, and every memory of that night 3 years ago came with her. She looked older, sharper, her hair pulled back tight, her dress plain grey wool, no jewelry, no makeup. Her eyes met his, and he saw exactly what he expected: rage. She didn't bow, didn't curtsy, just stood there in front of his desk like she had every right to be there. Your Majesty, the words came out flat, no respect. Just acknowledgement of a title she clearly thought meant nothing. He gestured to the chair. Sit, I'll stand. Of course she would. William walked around the desk, leaned against it, kept his voice level. You know why your sister was chosen. Sarah's jaw tightened. I know the seer pulled a name from a bowl. I know guards are on their way to collect her. I know in 3 weeks she'll be dead. Her voice didn't shake, didn't waver, clinical. Like she was reading a medical report. That's what she'd been doing the night Catherine died. Reading reports, checking vitals, trying to stop the bleeding that wouldn't stop. He'd watched her hands move, efficient, precise, no panic, and even when the midwife said there's nothing more we can do, Sarah had kept working. Catherine had still died, but Joshua lived. And Sarah Mitchell had been the one to make sure of that. William forced himself to focus. The tradition requires an unmarried woman between. I know the requirements. I also know the tradition says any unmarried woman in the family can volunteer as a substitute. That's not how it works, then make it work. You're the king. The words landed like a slap. William straightened. You think I want this? Sarah's eyes narrowed. I think you'll do it anyway. Just like your father did to my mother. The room went silent. Your mother. Sarah didn't blink. Jennifer Mitchell, 22 years old. Chosen 22 years ago because my grandfather refused to bend the knee to your father. She died in this palace, in the ceremonial hall. And 3 months later, my grandfather surrendered. William felt his chest tighten. He knew the history. Every king knew the history. The brides weren't random. They were tools, daughters of lords who got too loud, too rebellious, too difficult. Kill the daughter. Watch the father fall in line. It was efficient. It was monstrous. And it had kept the kingdom stable for 150 years. Sarah took a step closer. Everyone knows the brides aren't sacrificed to gods. They're executed to keep the provinces scared. My mother was Lady Jennifer Mitchell, daughter of the Lord of the Eastern Province. Her death ended a rebellion. She paused. Now you want my sister. William's hands curled into fists. I didn't choose her, the seer did. The seer does what the council tells her. That's not, isn't it? The question hung in the air, but because everyone knew it was. The seer listened to the council. The council listened to the old men who'd been running this kingdom since before William was born. Men like Donald Thompson. Sarah crossed her arms. Take me instead. No, I'm 22, same age as my mother, same age as the last bride. The tradition doesn't specify which woman. It just says one must be chosen. The law doesn't work that way, then change the law. I can't just... You're the king, change it. William wanted to laugh, or scream, maybe both. You think being king means I can do whatever I want? Doesn't it? No. Sarah tilted her head. Then what's the point of the crown? Good question. William had asked himself that same thing 1,000 times. He pushed off the desk. I'll look into it. But I can't promise. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking you to let my sister live. Her voice cracked. Just barely. Just enough. William saw it then. The fracture in the armor. She was terrified. Not for herself, for Amanda. I'll see what I can do. Sarah's eyes searched his face, looking for lies, probably. She wouldn't find any. Because he meant it. He just had no idea how to make it happen. Thank you. She turned to leave. Wait, she stopped. Why volunteer? If you know what happens to the brides, why offer yourself? Sarah looked back over her shoulder. Amanda is 18. She still thinks people are good. I'm 22. I know better. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. She walked out. The door closed. William stood alone in his office. He thought about Catherine's journal, about Sarah's mother, about Amanda Mitchell, 18 years old, probably packing a bag right now in some small house in Ashwood Village. He thought about Joshua, 5 years old, asleep in the nursery 3 floors up. What kind of kingdom would Joshua inherit? One built on lies, or one built on something better? William didn't know, but he was going to find out. He opened the door and shouted for Christopher. His prime minister appeared within seconds. Bring me the ceremony records. All of them. Christopher's eyebrows shot up. My lord, the council forbids. I didn't ask the council. Christopher hesitated, then nodded. I'll have them within the hour. William closed the door again, sat at his desk, opened the ledger. Amanda Mitchell, Sarah Mitchell, Jennifer Mitchell, 3 generations of women caught in a system designed to break them. He picked up his pen, started making notes. If he was going to dismantle 150 years of tradition, he'd need evidence, and he'd need allies, and he'd need something he hadn't had in a long time. Courage, the record arrived at midnight. Christopher carried them himself, 6 wooden crates. Decades of documentation. He set them on William's desk without a word. You're going to regret this, probably. Christopher almost smiled. Want help? No. Go home. See your wife. Christopher lingered. What are you looking for? The truth. Christopher snorted. Good luck with that. He left. William opened the first crate inside. Reports. Letters. All carefully catalogued. All carefully hidden. He started reading. 22 years ago. Jennifer Mitchell, age 22, daughter of Lord Edward Mitchell of the Eastern Province. The report was clinical. Cause of selection, provincial rebellion, cause of death, ceremonial offering. No details, just facts. Cold. Efficient, final. William kept reading. Years ago, Leora Blackwood. Age 19, daughter of Governor Nathaniel Blackwood of the Southern Province. Same pattern. Province causes trouble. Daughter gets chosen, daughter dies. Province falls in line. He read through 10 more, 15 more, all the same. Every single bride for the last 150 years had been the daughter of someone who defied the crown. Not one random selection, not one. William sat back. His hands shook. He'd known. On some level, he'd always known. But seeing it written out, documented, archived like it was just another administrative task, it made him sick. A knock at the door, he didn't answer. The door opened anyway. Barbara Garcia stepped in, head housekeeper. 60 years old, she'd worked in the palace since 5th. She set a tray on his desk. Tea, bread, cheese. You need to eat. I'm not hungry. Barbara didn't move. Eat anyway. William looked at her. She looked back. Neither of them blinked. He picked up the bread. Barbara nodded. She turned to leave. Wait. She paused. You were here. 22 years ago. When Jennifer Mitchell died, Barbara's face went carefully blank. Barbara's hands folded in front of her. Stubborn. Smart. Angry. She paused, a lot like her daughter, Sarah. Barbara nodded. Does Sarah know about her mother? Everyone knows, Your Majesty, we just don't talk about it. Why not? Barbara's expression softened because talking changes nothing. The ceremony happens, the bride dies, the kingdom continues. She met his eyes, that's how it's always been. William set the bread down. What if it didn't have to be? Barbara didn't answer, she just walked out. William stared at the ledgers, at the names, at the pattern. He thought about his father, about the old king standing on that balcony, presiding over ceremonies, watching daughters die. Had his father felt anything? Or had he just seen it as part of the job? William didn't know, didn't want to know. He stood, walked to the window. Outside, the palace grounds stretched into darkness. Beyond them, the city. Beyond that, the provinces. Somewhere out there, Amanda Mitchell was probably awake, probably scared, probably wondering if anyone would save her. William pressed his palm against the glass, cold, like everything else in this place. He turned back to his desk, started writing. A list, questions, evidence, names of council members who might listen, names of lords who might support reform. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Morning came too fast. William hadn't slept. He'd read through every record, made notes, cross-referenced dates and names and causes. The pattern was undeniable. The ceremony wasn't tradition, it was control. A knock at the door. "Come in." Christopher entered. He looked at the crates, at William's face, at the mess of papers covering the desk. "You look like hell. I feel worse." Christopher sat behind. "What you were looking for." William slid a ledger across the desk. "Ride it." Christopher picked it up. His eyes scanned the pages. His expression shifted from curiosity to disbelief to anger. "They're all political executions." "Yes." Christopher closed the ledger. "Does the council know you have this?" "Not yet." William leaned back. "I need to present this to them. Show them the evidence. Demand reform." Christopher shook his head. "They'll bury you. Let them try." "No, listen to me. You're 28 years old. You've been king for 3 years. Half the council still sees you as the boy who used to steal apples from the kitchen. I'm not asking for permission, Christopher. Then you're asking for a coup." The William stared at his friend. I think they'd do whatever it takes to maintain power, including removing you." Christopher stood. "You want to change the system? Fine, but you can't do it alone. And you can't. In 3 weeks. Amanda Mitchell doesn't have 3 weeks. Christopher's jaw tightened. "I know. Then what do you suggest?" "Find allies first, build support, then make your move." William wanted to argue, but Christopher was right. Charging into a council meeting with accusations and demands would get him nowhere, except maybe dead fine. Who do we approach first? Christopher thought for a moment. Lord Richard Miller. He's 35, young enough to consider change, and his father was close with Edward Mitchell, Amanda's grandfather. Exactly. William nodded. "Set up a meeting, private. Today if possible." Christopher moved toward the door, and William, "Yes, be careful. The old guard won't give up power without a fight." He left. William looked at the ledgers again, at Jennifer Mitchell's name, at Amanda's, at Sarah's. He thought about what Barbara had said. That's how it's always been. But it didn't have to be. Not anymore. Lord Richard Miller arrived at noon. He was exactly as Christopher described, mid-30s, sharp eyes, dressed plainly for a lord. He sat across from William in the private study. No guards, no witnesses. "Your Majesty, you wanted to see me?" William slid the ledger across the table. "Ride this." Richard picked it up. His eyes moved across the pages, slowly at first. Faster. His face went pale. "Where did you get this?" "Palace archives." Richard set the ledger down. "This can't be real." William leaned forward. "Every ceremony for the last 150 years, every bride, every one of them the daughter of someone who opposed the crown." Richard's hands curled into fists. "My father told me stories about Edward Mitchell. Said he was a good man. Said the crown killed his daughter to silence him." He paused. "I thought they were just stories." "They weren't." Richard stood. Paced to the window. Does the council know you have this? Not yet. What are you going to do with it? End it. Richard turned. End the ceremony? End the lie. Richard's eyes narrowed. You realize what you're asking. The provinces have been at peace for decades because of this tradition. Break it and you risk. I risk what? Rebellion? War, Richard. We're already killing daughters to prevent rebellion. How is that peace? Richard didn't answer. William pressed on. Amanda Mitchell is 18 years old. In 3 weeks she'll die, unless we stop it. Richard crossed his arms. Why are you telling me this? Because I need allies. Men who'll stand with me when the council pushes back. And you think I will. I think you remember what happened to Edward Mitchell. I think you don't want it to happen again. Richard stared at him long and hard, then nodded. What do you need? Support. When I present this to the council, I need lords who'll back me. Men who'll demand accountability. Richard exhaled. You'll have mine. But you need more than one. I know. Who else are you approaching? William hesitated. I was hoping you'd have suggestions. Richard thought for a moment. Lord Thomas Jackson. Western Province. He's in his 40s. Moderate. Might listen if the evidence is strong enough. He paused. But stay away from Lord George White, Northern 60. Old guard. He'll fight you tooth and nail. William nodded, noted. Richard moved toward the door. One more thing, Your Majesty, yes? If you're serious about this, if you're really going to challenge 150 years of tradition, you need to be prepared for the consequences. I am. Richard's expression said he didn't believe that. But he left anyway. William sat alone, thought about consequences, thought about Catherine, thought about Joshua. What kind of father was he if he let this system continue? What kind of king? He stood, walked to the nursery. Joshua was awake, playing with wooden blocks on the floor. Barbara sat in the corner, knitting something. She looked up when William entered. Your Majesty, leave us. Barbara set her knitting aside and walked out without a word. William sat on the floor next to his son. Joshua looked up, smiled. Papa. Hey, buddy. Joshua held up a block. Look, I made a tower. It was 3 blocks tall, wobbly. About to fall. William smiled. That's a good tower. Joshua knocked it over. Laughed. I'm going to build a bigger one. I bet you will. William watched his son play, thought about the world Joshua would grow up in. A world where daughters were expendable, where power mattered more than people, where tradition justified murder. No, not if William could help it. Joshua looked up. Papa, where's Miss Sarah? William's chest tightened. How do you know her? Barbara told me. She said Miss Sarah helped when I was born. William swallowed. Yes, she did. Is she staying here? William didn't know how to answer that. I hope so. Joshua went back to his blocks. William stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city stretched toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, Sarah Mitchell was waiting, Amanda was waiting, and the clock was ticking. 3 weeks, 21 days, 504 hours, not enough time to dismantle a system, but maybe enough time to crack it. He turned back to Joshua. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, Papa? Do you think people can change?
Joshua tilted his head. Like, grow up? William smiled. Yeah, like grow up, Joshua nodded. I'm gonna grow up big and strong, I bet you are. William ruffled his son's hair, then walked out. He had work to do. The council meeting was scheduled for 3 days later. William spent every waking hour preparing, reading records, drafting arguments, meeting with lords. Lord Thomas Jackson agreed to support him, cautiously, with conditions. 2 other lords, younger men, early 40s, also pledged support. It wasn't much. Something. Christopher helped where he could, gathering intelligence, identifying allies and enemies, making sure William didn't walk into an ambush. The night before the meeting, Sarah showed up again. Barbara brought her to William's study. She asks to see you, Your Majesty. William looked up from his notes. Send her in. Sarah entered, worn, but Estelle, defiant. She stood in front of his desk. I heard you've been meeting with lords. News travels fast. Sarah crossed her arms. What are you planning? William set down his pen. I'm going to present evidence to the council. Show them the ceremony as political tool. Demand reform. Sarah's eyes narrowed. And you think they'll just agree? No. But I think if enough lords stand with me, they'll have to listen. Sarah didn't look convinced. And if they don't? William didn't have an answer. Sarah stepped closer. Let me come to the meeting. No, why not? Because it'll be dangerous. The council doesn't like being challenged. I don't care. I do. The words came out harder than he intended. Sarah's expression shifted. Why? William stood, walked around the desk. Because if this goes wrong, I don't want you caught in the crossfire. I'm already in the crossfire. My sister's name is on the list. She paused. So was my mother's? I know. Do you? Do you really know what it's like to watch someone you love disappear into this palace and never come out? William thought about Catherine, about holding her hand while she bled out, about Joshua crying in the next room. Yes, I do. Sarah's face softened. Just a fraction, then you understand why I have to be there. William wanted to argue, but she was right. She had every right to be in that room. Fine, but you stay quiet. Let me do the talking. Sarah almost smiled. I'll try. The council chamber was exactly as he remembered. Ceilings, stone walls, a long table with 12 chairs. 11 of them were filled, the 12th his father's old seat, now his, sat empty. William walked in. Every eye turned toward him. Donald Thompson sat at the head of the table, 65 years old, head elder. He'd served 5 kings, and he'd outlasted every single one of them, Your Majesty. We weren't expecting you. I called this meeting. Thompson's expression didn't change. The council calendar shows no such meeting. I don't care what the calendar shows. We need to talk. Thompson leaned back. About? Williams set the ledgers on the table. About this, the council members stared at the crates. Thompson's eyes narrowed. Where did you get those? Palace archives. Those records are sealed. Not anymore. William opened the first ledger. For the last 150 years, every bride chosen in the Raven Call has been the daughter of a lord or governor who opposed the crown. He flipped through pages. Jennifer Mitchell, Edward Mitchell's daughter, Eastern Rebellion. Leora Blackwood, Nathaniel Blackwood's daughter, Southern. Grain disputes. He looked up. Every single one. The room went silent. One of the younger council members, a man in his 40s, leaned forward. Is this true? Thompson's jaw tightened. It's more complicated than it appears. No, it's not. William slammed the ledger shut. This ceremony isn't tradition. It's execution. And we've been lying about it for generations. Thompson stood. You're young, Your Majesty. You don't understand the weight of leadership, the sacrifices required to maintain order. I understand just fine. I understand we're killing daughters to scare fathers into submission. Thompson's voice went cold. And it works. William stared at him. That's your defense? That it works? Yes. Walked around the table. The provinces have been at peace for decades. No rebellions, no uprisings, because they know the cost of defiance. He stopped in front of William. One life for thousands. It's mathematics. It's murder. Thompson didn't flinch. Call it what you want. It keeps the kingdom stable. William's hands curled into fists. And what about Amanda Mitchell? What threat does an 18-year-old girl pose? Thompson's expression didn't change. Her grandfather defied your father. Her family has a history of rebellion. The seer chose her name to send a message that no one is beyond reach. Wifongthatong felt red surge through his chest. This ends now. Thompson smiled. No, it doesn't. He gestured to the other council members. Gentlemen, a vote. Should we proceed with the ceremony as planned or indulge His Majesty's idealism? Hands went. 8 in favor of proceeding, 3 against, 1 abstention. Thompson turned back to William. The council has spoken. William's vision tunneled. This isn't over. Oh, but it is. Thompson walked back to his seat. The ceremony will take place in 18 days. You will preside, as tradition demands. He sat, meeting adjourned. The council members stood, filed out. William stood frozen. Christopher appeared at his side. "We need to leave." William didn't move. "They voted to kill her, I know." They didn't even hesitate. Christopher's hand gripped his shoulder. "We'll find another way." "What other way?" "I don't know yet. But standing here won't help." William forced himself to walk, out of the chamber, down the hall, back to his study. Sarah was waiting. She stood when he entered, one look at his face, and she knew they said no, worse. They voted. Her expression hardened. So what now? William sank into his chair. "I don't know." Sarah stepped closer. "Then figure it out." "Because my sister has 18 days left." "I know." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you gave up." William's head snapped up. "I didn't give up." "Then what are you doing?" "Trying to find a solution that doesn't end with me dead and Amanda still dying." The words echoed. Sarah's face softened. "I'm sorry, I know." William stood. "I won't let her die. I swear to you, but I need time to think." Sarah nodded. "How much time?" "As much as I can get." Paused. "For what it's worth." "Thank you for trying." She left. William sat alone, thought about votes and voices and the weight of a crown that felt more like a noose, thought about Amanda, about Sarah, about Catherine's journal and the blood-stained handkerchief he still kept locked in his desk, thought about Joshua, 5 years old and already living in a kingdom built on bones. No, not anymore. William stood, opened his drawer, pulled out parchment and ink, started writing. Not a speech, not a plea, a plan. The plan was simple, too simple, which meant it would probably fail. William stared at the parchment. 3 pages of notes, diagrams, contingencies, all of it hinged on one thing: finding proof that the council had manipulated the selection process. Not just this year, every year. If he could prove the seer didn't choose names randomly, that Thompson fed her the list, then the entire ceremony became invalid, a fraud. And frauds could be overturned. Christopher stood behind him. "You want to accuse the head elder of rigging a sacred ceremony?" "Yes." "Based on what evidence?" William tapped the parchment. "Based on patterns. Every bride for 150 years came from families that opposed the crown. That's not random chance. That's selection." Christopher leaned over his shoulder. "Paws aren't proof. You need documents. Orders. Something that shows Thompson telling the seer which name to pick. Then we find them." Christopher straightened. "And where exactly do you think Thompson keeps evidence of his crimes?" "Filed neatly in his office." William turned in his chair. "People make mistakes. They get sloppy." "We find the sloppiness." Christopher crossed his arms. "You have 17 days, I know. And if we don't find anything, then I cancel the ceremony anyway and deal with the consequences." Christopher's expression went dark. "The consequences will be civil war." "Maybe." William stood. "Or maybe the provinces are tired of living under threat. Maybe they'll see me as the king who finally broke the cycle. And if they don't, then I die. But at least I die trying to do the right thing." Christopher stared at him. Catherine would have loved this plan. The words hit harder than expected. William's throat tightened. She would have called it reckless. Christopher almost smiled. She would have called it necessary. The archives smelled like dust and decay. William descended the stone stairs into the basement of the eastern wing, a place he'd never been, a place most people forgot existed. Christopher met him at the bottom. "Holding a lantern, you sure about this?" "No, but we're doing it anyway." Christopher pushed open a heavy wooden door. Inside, shelves, hundreds of them, floor to ceiling, packed with ledgers and scrolls and documents dating back centuries. Where do we even start? William scanned the room. Ceremony records. Anything from the last 50 years. They split up. William moved down the left side. Christopher took the right. Hawes passed, dust-coated William's hands. His lungs. He found records of grain shipments, tax collections, military deployments. Nothing useful. Christopher called from across the room. "I've got something." William crossed to him. Christopher held up a ledger. financial records, payments to the seer's temple, monthly stipends. William took the ledger, flipped through pages. The amounts were consistent. 50 gold pieces per month, standard compensation for a religious official. But then, 22 years ago, the month before Jennifer Mitchell's ceremony, the payment jumped. 500 gold pieces. Impulse quickened. Why would they pay her 10 times the usual amount? Christopher leaned closer. Keep reading. William turned the page. The month after the ceremony, the payment dropped back to 50. He flipped forward. 12 years ago. Same pattern, payment spike. Ceremony, payment drop every single time. William's hand shook. They're bribing her. Christopher nodded. Looks like it. William closed the ledger. This is it. This is proof. Christopher stayed cautious. It's suspicious. But it's not proof. Thompson could claim the extra payments were for ceremonial expenses. Then we find more. They kept searching. Another hour. 2. Christopher found letters, correspondence between Thompson and the seers. Most of it mundane. Temple maintenance. Religious observances. But one letter. Dated 3 weeks before Jennifer Mitchell's ceremony. Thompson's handwriting. The family in question requires correction. Ensure the selection reflects the severity of their transgression. William read it 3 times. The family in question. Not a name, not specific, but clear enough. Thompson had told the seer which family to target. Christopher exhaled. That's it. That's your proof. William folded the letter carefully, slipped it into his coat. We bring this to the council. When? Tomorrow. Christopher's eyes widened. Tomorrow? We need time to prepare, to gather support. We don't have time. Amanda has 16 days left. Christopher grabbed his arm. If you rush this, Thompson will bury you. William pulled free. He's going to try either way. At least this way we control the timing. Christopher stared at him, then nodded. I'll get the Lord's one-step sledge support. Good. William headed for the stairs. And William? He stopped. Don't tell Sarah yet. Not until we know it worked. Why not? Because if it doesn't, I don't want her to have hope and then lose it. William understood that. More than he wanted to. Agreed. They climbed back into the light. Sarah appeared the next morning. Barbara showed her into the study without announcement. William looked up from the mountain of documents covering his desk. Does the word appointment mean anything to you? Sarah dropped into the chair across from him. Does the word urgency mean anything to you? Fair point. William sets pen. What do you need? You want a helping by staying out of the way. Sarah's eyes narrowed. My sister has 17 days left. I'm not sitting in a guest room knitting while you shuffle papers. I'm not shuffling. Then, what are you finding evidence? Proof that the council rigged the selection. Sarah leaned forward. And if you find it, then the ceremony gets invalidated. Amanda goes free. And if you don't? William didn't answer. Sarah's jaw tightened. That's what I thought. You're gambling with her life. I'm trying to save it by reading reports. Her voice rose. By building a case that actually holds up. I can't just storm into the council and demand they stop. I tried that. They voted me down. So you're giving up? I'm being strategic. Sarah slammed her hand on the desk. Strategic doesn't keep Amanda alive. The words hung between them. William stood. What exactly do you want me to do, Sarah? Execute the entire council? Stage a coup? Burn the palace down? I want you to act like her life matters. It does matter. His voice cracked. Do you think I don't know what's at stake? Do you think I sleep at night knowing a girl is going to die because I can't find a loophole? Sarah's expression shifted, softened. Then let me help. How I know people. In the villages. People who've lost daughters. Who've watched this ceremony steal their families. She paused. Maybe they know something we don't. William considered it. If you start asking questions, Thompson will hear about it. Let him. Sarah stood. Maybe it's time he knew we're not backing down. William wanted to argue, but she had a point. Fine. But you report everything to Christopher. Every conversation. Every lead, deal, she turned to leave Sarah. She looked back. Be careful. Her lips curved into something almost like a smile. You too. She walked out. The meeting took place in Thompson's private study, a room William had never seen. Dark wood, leather chairs, paintings of past council members lining the walls, all of them men, all of them dead. Sarah sat across from Thompson, a small device tucked into her sleeve. Christopher had assured her it would pick up every word. Thompson poured tea, handed her a cup. Miss Mitchell, I appreciate you coming. Sarah's hands stayed steady. I wanted to understand the process. What happens to Amanda? After Thompson's expression stayed neutral. After the ceremony, your sister's body will be prepared for burial. You'll be allowed to claim her. Give her a proper funeral. How generous. The words came out flat. Thompson set down his cup. I understand your anger. Truly. But this ceremony serves a greater purpose. Killing my sister serves a purpose. Maintaining order. Stability. Sarah leaned forward. My mother died 22 years ago. What order did that maintain? Thompson's eyes flickered. Your grandfather was planning a rebellion. Your mother's sacrifice prevented bloodshed. She didn't sacrifice anything. You murdered her. Thompson's jaw tightened. I did what was necessary. Sarah's heart pounded. Did you choose her? Personally? Thompson hesitated. The seer chooses. Don't lie to me. Her voice shook. I've seen the records, the payments, the letters. She paused. You picked my mother, just like you picked Amanda. Thompson stood. This conversation is over. Sarah stood too.
What did she do? She's your sister.
You defied me when you demanded an audience with the king. This is the consequence. Sarah's blood went cold. You're killing her to punish me. I'm killing her to remind you that no one defies the council. The words hung in the air. Sarah's vision tunneled. She'd gotten what she came for. A confession, but it didn't feel like victory. She turned, walked out. Susan called after her. Tell the king, tell whoever you want. It won't change anything. Sarah didn't look back. Christopher met her outside. Did you get it? Sarah's hand shook. He confessed everything. Christopher's expression went grim. Then we have him. They walked quickly back to William's study. William stood when they entered. Sarah's face told him everything. He confessed. She nodded. Christopher pulled the recording device from her sleeve, played it back. Thompson's voice filled the room. I'm killing her to remind you that no one defies the council. William's hands curled into fists. That bastard. Christopher stopped the recording. This is enough. We bring this to the full council. Demand his removal. And the ceremony? William looked at Sarah. I'm cancelling it. Tonight, Sarah's eyes filled. You're sure? I'm sure. William turned to Christopher. Call an emergency session. All council members. All lords. I want witnesses. Christopher nodded. It'll take a few hours to assemble everyone. Then we have a few hours to prepare. Christopher left. Sarah stayed. Thank you. William met her eyes. Don't thank me yet. Thompson won't go quietly. I don't care. As Amanda lives. She paused. What happens to you? After? William thought about abdication, about exile, about a kingdom torn apart. I don't know. Sarah stepped closer. Whatever happens. You did the right thing. Her hand touched his, brief, warm. Then she pulled away. I should go. Amanda's waiting. Tell her it's over. Sarah almost smiled. I will. She left. William stood alone, thought about consequences and courage and the price of both, then started preparing his speech. The council chamber filled quickly. 12 council members. 4 lords, Christopher, Sarah, and Amanda in the back. William stood at the head of the table. The Thompson sat across from him, calm, controlled. Like he already knew how this would end, William placed the recording device on the table. 3 days ago, I presented evidence of financial irregularities and suspicious correspondence. You dismissed it. He pressed play. Thompson's voice echoed through the chamber. I'm killing her to remind you that no one defies the council. The room erupted. Shouts. Arguments. Demands for explanation. William raised his hand. Silence fell. Elder Thompson has admitted manipulating the Raven Call for political purposes. This invalidates the ceremony. Effective immediately. I'm cancelling it. Thompson stood. You don't have the authority. I'm the king. I have every authority. Thompson's smile was cold. And how long do you think you'll remain king after this? As long as it takes. William turned to the council. Anyone who opposes this decision can voice their objection now. Silence. Even the old lords stayed quiet because the recording had done what documents couldn't. It made the crime undeniable. Thompson's face went dark. This isn't over, yes. William gestured to the guards. Escort Elder Thompson to his quarters. He's under house arrest pending formal charges. The guards moved forward. Thompson didn't resist, but his eyes promised vengeance. He walked out. The chamber stayed silent. William looked at Sarah. She was crying. Amanda clung to her, both of them shaking. He wanted to say something, but there were no words, so he just nodded. Sarah nodded back. The meeting adjourned. Lords filed out. Council members followed. Christopher stayed. You did it. William exhaled. We did it. Christopher clapped him on the shoulder. Now comes the hard part. William knew. Cancelling the ceremony was one thing. Rebuilding a kingdom's trust after 150 years of lies. That would take a lifetime, but it was a start. The city erupted before dawn. William heard it from his bedroom window. Shouts, bells. The rush of feet on cobblestone. News traveled fast, especially news like this. The ceremony's cancelled. The king arrested Thompson. Everything's changing. He dressed quickly. No servants, no ceremony, just him and the quiet dread sitting in his stomach. Christopher was already in the study when William arrived. Maps spread across the desk. Reports stacked in neat piles. His face said it all. We have a problem. Of course they did. What now? Lord George White left the capital an hour ago, headed north with his entire retinue. William's jaw tightened. How many men? Christopher consulted a report. 50. Maybe more. He's winning the Northern Lords. Winning them for what? Christopher looked up. To discuss your fitness to rule. The words landed like stones. William moved to the window. Outside the palace grounds stretched empty. Too empty. Where are the guards? Half of them went with White. The other half are waiting for what? To see which side wins. William turned. We're not at war yet. Christopher's expression said otherwise. White's already sent letters to the other provinces, calling your decision reckless, claiming you've endangered the kingdom. He paused. 3 lords have responded. They're meeting in 2 days, at White's estate. To do what? Vote me out? Essentially. William felt the ground shift beneath him. Can they do that? Legally? No. But if enough lords unite against you, legality stops mattering. So I have 2 days to convince them not to start a civil war. Christopher nodded. Or you abdicate. Let someone else take the crown. Someone who'll reinstate the ceremony. William's hands curled into fists. I didn't cancel it just to watch the next king bring it back. Then you fight. How? Christopher straightened. You go to them, to White's estate. You make your case. They'll never let me in. Then we make them. William stared at his friend. You're serious, dead serious. You show up with your own retinue. Lords who support you, make it clear you're not backing down. And if White refuses to hear me, then we know where he stands, and we prepare for what comes next. William thought about Catherine, about Joshua, about Amanda alive somewhere in the palace, because he'd chosen courage over comfort. Fine. Who do we have? Christopher pulled out a list. Lord Richard Miller. Eastern Province. He's solid good. Lord Thomas Jackson. Western Province. He's cautious, but come if Miller does, and anyone else? Christopher hesitated. Lord Paul Moore. Southern Province. He's young, untested. But his father hated the ceremony. Will he stand with us? Only one way to find out. William grabbed parchment, started writing. What are you doing? Inviting them to dinner. Tonight. We need to coordinate before we march into White's territory. Christopher almost smiled. You're learning. I had a good teacher. Catherine would have been proud. The words hurt in the best way. The dinner lords. Christopher. William at the head of the table. No ceremony. Chashasminen trying to decide if they were willing to die for a principle. Lord Richard Miller spoke first. 35. Sharp. Angry. White's already poisoned half the northern lords against you. They think cancelling the ceremony will bring chaos. William cut into his meat. And what do you think? I think chaos already existed. We just called it tradition. The words hung heavy. Lord Thomas Jackson cleared his throat. Mid-40s. Careful. I support the cancellation. But I'm worried about the timing. We needed more preparation, more consensus. There was no time, I understand. But now we're facing potential rebellion because we moved too fast. Would you rather we moved slow and let Amanda Mitchell die? Jackson's face reddened. No. Of course not. Then we did what we had to do, Lord Paul Moore spoke up. 28. Same age as William. Nervous energy. My province supports you. But they're scared. They've heard rumors that White plans to march on the capital. William set down his fork. Let him march. I won't start a war. But I won't surrender either. Richard Miller leaned forward. What's your plan? We go to White's estate and then what? We present the evidence, the recording, the financial records. We show the other lords that Thompson manipulated the ceremony for decades. And if they don't care, then we leave, and we prepare. For whatever comes. The table went quiet. Paul Moore spoke softly. My father used to say that kingdoms fall when leaders choose comfort over conscience. He paused. You chose conscience. I'll stand with you. Richard Miller nodded. So will I. Thomas Jackson hesitated, then nodded. And I. William felt something loosen in his chest. Thank you. Christopher raised his glass. To conscience. The lords raised theirs. To conscience. They drank. And for a moment, William let himself believe they might actually survive this. Sarah found him later that night. He was in the library, alone, reading through old treaties, looking for precedent, for anything that might give him leverage. She sat across from him. You look like you're planning a war. I'm trying to prevent one. How's that going? William closed the book. Ask me in 2 days. Sarah's expression softened. Amanda wants to thank you. In person, she already did, not properly. She's been too scared to leave her room. But now she wants to see you. William's throat tightened. I don't need thanks. I know. But she needs to give it. He understood that. The need to express gratitude even when words felt inadequate. Fine. Tomorrow morning? Sarah nodded. She stood to leave. William's voice stopped her. Sarah. She turned. After this is over. After White and the lords and all the politics. What will you do? Sarah considered. Go home, to Ashwood. Help Amanda rebuild her life. You could stay. The kingdom needs people like you. People like me. People who aren't afraid to fight. Sarah's lips curved. I'm terrified. I've been terrified since the moment Amanda's name was called. You don't show it. That's called survival. She paused. You should try it sometime. William almost laughed. I'll add it to the list. Sarah walked to the door. Stopped. For what it's worth, I think you're going to win. William wanted to believe her. What makes you so sure? Because you're too stubborn to lose. She left. William sat in the silence, thought about stubborn and survival, and the thin line between bravery and stupidity, then went back to his books. Amanda came the next morning. Barbara brought her to William's office. The girl looked different, less terrified, more live. Your Majesty. She curtsied, still awkward. William stood. Please sit. Amanda sat. Her hands folded in her lap. I wanted to thank you for saving my life. William shook his head. You don't need to. Yes, I do. Her voice was stronger than before. My whole life I've been scared of the ceremony. Scared my name would be called, and when it was, I thought I was going to die. She paused. But you didn't let that happen. William's chest ached. I did what anyone should do. No, you did what no one else was brave enough to do. Amanda leaned forwards. Sarah, about White, about the risk you're taking. She met his eyes. Why? You barely know me. William thought about Catherine. about the night she died, about Sarah's hands trying to stop the bleeding, because knowing you isn't the point. You're a person. That should be enough. Amanda's eyes filled. Most people don't think that way. Then most people are wrong. The words came out harder than intended, but Amanda smiled. Sarah said you'd say something like that, did she? She says you remind her of our mother. William's breath caught. Your mother? Amanda nodded. Mama used to say that power without compassion is just cruelty with a crown. The phrase hit him like lightning. Catherine had written those exact words. In her journal the night before she died, William's hands shook. Your mother was a wise woman. Amanda's smile went sad. I wish I remembered her better. She stood. Thank you again, Your Majesty. William stood too. Call me William. Amanda blinked. I can't. You're the king. Then call me William when no one's listening. Amanda laughed. Soft and genuine. It was the best sound William had heard in days. She left. William sat back down, opened Catherine's journal, read the words again. Power without compassion is just cruelty with a crown. Catherine had learned that phrase from Jennifer Mitchell, Amanda's mother, Sarah's mother, a woman who died in this palace 22 years ago. And somehow her words had survived, passed from mother to wife to king. William closed the journal, locked it away, and made a promise. Jennifer Mitchell's death wouldn't be meaningless. None of their deaths would be. They left for White's estate at dawn. 20 men, 4 lords, Christopher, William. The ride took 2 days. 2 days of tension and silence and horses moving through forests that felt like they were holding their breath. They arrived at sunset. White's estate sat on a hill. Stone walls, iron gates, guards everywhere. More guards than usual. Christopher rode up beside William. He's expecting trouble or planning it. They dismounted at the gates. A guard stepped forward. State your business. King William Harris. Here to speak with Lord White. The guard hesitated, then nodded. Wait here. He disappeared inside. Richard Miller moved closer. If this goes badly. It won't. You don't know that. No, but I'm choosing to believe it anyway, because hope was all he had left. The guard returned. Lord White will see you, but only you. No retinue. William looked at Christopher. His friend's expression screamed trap, but they'd come this far. Fine. William dismounted. Walked through the gates alone. The great hall smelled like smoke and old wine. Lord George White sat at the head of a long table, 60 years old, beards like flint behind him. 6 other lords, all of them older, all of them watching William like wolves. Your Majesty. How kind of you to visit. The words dripped sarcasm. William didn't flinch. Lord White. Thank you for agreeing to meet. White gestured to a chair. Sit. We have much to discuss. William sat. The other lords stayed standing. Deliberate intimidation. William ignored it. I came to explain my decision. To cancel the ceremony. White's smile was cold. Oh, we understand your decision. You're young. Idealistic. You think you can rewrite centuries of tradition because it makes you uncomfortable. The ceremony was based on lies, so you've claimed. William pulled the recording device from his coat, set it on the table. This is Thompson's confession. He admits to manipulating the selection process, to targeting families for political purposes. White didn't touch it. Thompson is a disgraced elder. His word means nothing. He's on record. Records can be falsified. William's jaw clenched. You're refusing to hear the evidence. I'm refusing to upend a stable kingdom based on the tantrums of a boy king. The room went silent. William stood. I'm not a boy. And this isn't a tantrum. His voice cut through the hall. For 150 years, we've told the provinces that the raven call was divine, that the gods chose the brides. We lied. And we killed innocent women to maintain that lie. He paused. I won't continue it. White stood too. And what about the stability we maintained, the peace we preserved? Peace built on murder isn't peace. It's just delayed justice. The words echoed. William saw one of the younger lords shift, uncertain. White saw it too. His expression hardened. You think you can waltz in here and change our minds with pretty speeches? We've already decided. Decided what? White's smile returned. That you're unfit to rule. We're calling for a vote of no confidence. By this time tomorrow, the council will convene to discuss your abdication. William's pulse spiked. You don't have the authority. We have 7 lords, more than enough to petition the council. And if I refuse, then we march on the capital, and we remove you by force. The threat hung naked between them. William's hands curled into fists. You'd start a civil war to protect a lie. We'd start a war to protect the kingdom. White stepped forward. You're weak, William. Your father was weak. This entire bloodline has grown soft. He paused. It's time for stronger leadership. William understood then. This wasn't about the ceremony. It was about power. White had been waiting for an excuse, any excuse. And William had given him one. I'm not abdicating. Then you're choosing war. No, you are. William turned, walked toward the door. White's voice followed him. You have until tomorrow noon. Abdicate peacefully, or we come for you. William didn't look back, just kept walking out of the hall, through the gates, back to his men. Christopher saw his face. That bad? Worse. They mounted their horses, rode hard into the night. They made it back to the capital by morning, exhausted, hungry, running on adrenaline and desperation. William called an emergency meeting, his remaining council members. The 3 lords who'd stood with him, Christopher, Sarah, he needed everyone. White's given us an ultimatum. Abdicate by noon on the capital. The room erupted. Lord Thomas Jackson stood. How many men does he have? 300, maybe more. And us, Christopher answered. 200. If we're lucky. Richard Miller slammed his hand on the table. We can't win a direct fight. Then we don't fight directly. Everyone turned to Sarah. She stepped forward. White's support comes from fear. The lords think cancelling the ceremony will destabilize the kingdom. She paused. So we prove them wrong. How? We show them the kingdom's still standing, that the provinces aren't in chaos, that people support the change. William caught on. You want to rally the citizens, not just rally. Mobilize. Get them to the capital. Show the lords that the people are with you. Lord Paul Moore nodded slowly. It could work, if enough people show up. Richard Miller looked skeptical. You think farmers and merchants will risk their lives for a king they barely know? Sarah's eyes blazed. They'll risk their lives for daughters who won't have to die anymore. The room went quiet. William stood. How fast can we spread the word? Christopher pulled out a map. Messengers can reach the nearest villages by tonight. The farther provinces by tomorrow morning. Do it. Tell them to come armed if they can. Unarmed if they can't. Just come. Christopher nodded, started issuing orders. William turned to Sarah. This was your idea. Will you help coordinate? Sarah's smile was grim. Traitor stop me. The next 30 hours blurred together. Messengers rode out in every direction. Word spread like wildfire. The king cancelled the ceremony. He needs your support. Come to the capital. William barely slept. He spent the night reinforcing the palace defenses, positioning guards, preparing for siege. Because if the people didn't come, if White marched and the capital stood alone, they'd be slaughtered. Christopher found him on the battlements at dawn. You should rest. Can't. William's eyes scanned the horizon. Empty, no sign of White's army. Not yet, but they'd come. Christopher leaned against the wall. You know this might not work. I know. And if it doesn't? William thought about Joshua, about Amanda, about every girl whose name might someday land in that cursed bowl. Then we die trying. Christopher nodded. Good answer. They stood in silence, watching the sun rise, waiting for an army or a miracle. The miracle came at noon. William saw it from the battlements, a crowd moving toward the capital like a slow tide. Hundreds of people, no, thousands, farmers, merchants, families, old men, young women, children on their parents' shoulders. All of them walking toward the palace. Christopher's voice was awed. They came. William's throat closed. Yeah, they did. The crowd filled the square, spilled into the streets. Kept growing. Sarah appeared at his side. Told you they'd come. William looked at her. How did you know? Because they're tired of being afraid. She pointed to a banner someone had raised. It read, "No more daughters." William felt something crack in his chest. Another banner went up, "End the lie," then another. "We stand with the king." The crowd started chanting, "No more brides." No more brides. The sound shook the walls. Christopher grabbed William's arm. White's army just appeared. On the eastern ridge, William turned, saw them, 300 men, armored, armed, marching toward the city. The crowd saw them too. The chanting stopped. Fear rippled through the square. William's heart pounded. This was it. The moment everything either held together or fell apart. He descended from the battlements, walked through the palace, out the main doors, into the square. The crowd parted. William walked to the center, climbed onto the fountain base, so everyone could see him. White's army stopped at the city gates. George White rode forward, alone. He looked at the crowd. At William, back at the crowd, his expression unreadable. William's voice carried across the square, "Lord White. You've come to remove me." White's horse stamped. "I've come to restore order." William gestured to the crowd. "Look around. Does this look like chaos?" White's jaw tightened. These people don't understand what they're supporting. They understand that their daughters won't die anymore. That's enough. White dismounted, walked forward, stopped 10 feet from William. "You're making a mistake. The provinces need the ceremony. It keeps them in line." Shook his head. "They need justice, not fear." White's hand moved to his sword. The crowd gasped. William didn't flinch. "If you want to kill me, do it. But you'll have to go through them first." He pointed to the people. White looked at the sea of faces. Thousands of them, all watching, all waiting. White's hand fell from his sword. His shoulders sagged. "You've already won." The words came out bitter. William stepped down from the fountain, walked to White, offered his hand. "I don't want to win. I want peace." White stared at the hand. For a long moment, William thought he'd refuse. Then White took it. The crowd erupted. Cheers, crying, relief washing over the square like rain. White's voice was low. "This doesn't mean I agree with you. I know, but I won't fight you. That's enough." White released his hand, turned to his men. "Stand down." The soldiers lowered their weapons. William turned to the crowd. "The ceremony is ended. Permanently. No more brides will be chosen. No more daughters will die." The cheering grew louder. He raised his hands. "But ending the ceremony is just the beginning. We need to rebuild trust, to create a kingdom where power serves the people. Not the other way around." He paused. "I can't do that alone. I need your help." A woman's voice called out, "You have it!" Others echoed, "You have it! You have it!" William's vision blurred. He stepped down. Sarah was there, Amanda beside her, both of them crying. Amanda threw her arms around him. "Thank you. Thank you." William hugged her back. Over her shoulder, he saw Christopher. His friend nodded, pride in his eyes. William released Amanda to the crowd, to the kingdom he'd nearly lost, and the kingdom that had saved him back.